when things were just really getting, so she's going to be really excited to hear this success story, because she was part of all this coming together too. I think, I mean, me as the desperate mom, I was reaching out to everybody, everyone I could.
Yeah, well, I understand. And so I'm glad that START team was able to help also. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get us started because it's 12:35. And of course, this is the Clinical Consultation Network. Welcome, everyone. So glad you could be here with us today. Of course, we do this every Tuesday at 12:30. So tell all your friends, tell anybody you know that we do this, and we'd love to have you as a guest, no matter who you are. You really don't have to be a clinician to be part of this group. In fact, what we'd like to do is have everybody understand a lot of these things that we're talking about, so that they're able to support people with intellectual and developmental disabilities more effectively. And we have a great story here today about Tyler, and his mom, Jennifer Coleman, is going to be with us here today, along with Lauren Piercy from the Council on Developmental Disabilities, who is going to be co-presenting with her. And so we're so happy to have them here today. Before I launch into that, though, I am going to ask, does anybody notice anything different about my backdrop here? Now, I don't know if anybody noticed, but my cowboy over here is covered up because I have my jacket here, and I'm just going to show this to you real quick. This is my crisis response jacket. It is something that we have issued to our 10-star staff. So I don't know if people can read the logo there, but we've got our logo, and we have on the arm of it, Department of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. This was just some clothing that Michelle ordered, just so that we could more easily identify ourselves if we find ourselves in a difficult situation that we're having to deal with a crisis for. And so, so these are pretty cool jackets that Michelle was able to order. I just use that to bring attention to 10 Start one more time. And so hopefully everybody's aware of that. And I'm sure that that's going to come up in the course of today's conversation. Before we launch into our agenda for today, I'm going to do a quick Get Smarticle. So Babs, should I just go ahead and share, or did you have other information you want to share first?
You can roll right into it. The only thing I have is both of their bios on a slide. But yeah, you can roll into the Get Smarticle.
All right. All right, so here's our Get Smarticle for today. So today's Get Smarticle is one by Julie Brown. And for those of you who may not know, Julie is the author of the skills system, which we will also be talking about today through LifeConnect Health, which has been a big part of Tyler's development. And so as a result of this, I got this article by Brown, Hamilton Mason, Maramaldi, and Jarrett Barnhill, Beyond the Surface of Consumer Staff Relationships, from the Global Journal of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. And so in this article, they talked a lot about challenging behavior, and there was an article in here cited by Griffith, Hutchinson, and Hastings, where they talked about 4 different aspects of antecedents, or things that might lead to challenging behavior for people with ID. And this at a particularly skills system slant to how these were looked at. So there are power imbalances, so where one person is more powerful than another. Restrictive procedures are often, where we're trying to use those sometimes to eliminate problem behavior. They often stimulate more problem behavior. Impersonal attitudes between caregivers and persons supported. And then just the stress of residential living and being sort of controlled in that environment. And so it creates somewhat of a cycle. There are more restrictions, more dissatisfaction, more challenging behavior. And so this cycle goes on and continues. The method in this study, what they did was interviewed 30 people with intellectual disability who also had co-occurring challenging behavior. The participants were aged 24 to 67. There were 25 males, 5 females. they were engaged in, and what they were trying to identify in these interviews was positive and negative processes that may be going on. So perceived positive processes of staff relationships. For one thing, being supportive. I know that people are here to help me, essentially. Engaging in co-regulation, helping me make the right decisions, being close. When I need him, he's always there. These are types of positive processes. Fostering personal growth. I wouldn't be a man. I wouldn't be the man I am now if it hadn't been for this interaction that I've been having with my staff member. Exhibiting reciprocity. They treat me as I treat them. I'm generous. They're being generous. Anything I want, we try to go get. And then enacting preferred traits, cool, calm, and happy, facilitating activities. We go to my job. All of these things were considered positive processes. And then on the other side are negative processes. So where people are exerting power differentials, where people are perceived as walking all over someone, enforcing rules, not seeing eye to eye, not having the same set of rules, not thinking in the same terms as to what values are and what needs to be addressed. Being too directive, do this, do that, managing your time. So this is such a big thing where people feel rushed a lot of times through their day, or where people are not getting to things quickly enough in many other circumstances. Those are antecedents to many problems. And then invading privacy. Basically, I can't go to the bathroom for myself. I think about that a lot when I think about people who have gotten into a level 6 type of placement where they have a 2-to-1 staffing ratio. They must often feel like they can never get any privacy. So then there's also these synthesis processes. What these are times where a person's able to kind of bring everything together. And so there's adaptive coping, where you're trying to make your life better. There's conflict resolution, where you can kind of talk it out with somebody, and then integrating positive and negative types of processes, which is where you don't necessarily like everything about everybody that you're around, and understanding that there can be positives and negatives with any relationship that you have. So getting down to some of the recommendations, obviously we want staff to engage in more positive processes with people and avoid those negative processes. That we want for there to be adaptive self-regulation. So we don't often think about that or talk about that, but when there are staff members or family members who are working with someone, that we want them to be able to self-regulate so that they can demonstrate for the person how to self-regulate. And then effective co-regulation. So this is where you kind of join the person a little bit, and we're regulating ourselves together. This joining can really be a very powerful process when people learn how to do it. And then persons supported, they can get training in these synthesis processes. If they can find their way to higher ground, they're going to be in a much better position of being able to have perspective on that and to be able to go forward and manage themselves under that circumstance. And then training in dealing with negative processes. No matter how hard we try, negative processes are going to occur. And so we all have to learn to deal with those. And this is another recommendation in this article for person supported. So that's our Get Smarticle for today. Really great Get Smarticle. I did reference this other article here by Griffith, Hutchinson, and Hastings. Great article on just basically how to interact with people. So I'm so thankful now today to have as our guest Jennifer Coleman, who is the mother of Tyler, who is a 9-year-old fella with a disability. And she's going to tell us more about that in a moment. We also have with us today Lauren Piercy, who is the executive director of the Council on Developmental Disabilities. She recently took over for Wanda Willis, one of my heroes, and now she has stepped into the role and continued those really positive actions on the part of the Council on Developmental Disabilities. So really happy to have her here today as well. Welcome, Ms. Coleman.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. I appreciate being invited onto this call. this is just a subject matter that is just so near and dear to my heart. I have a lot to say. I'm so excited about it. So I hope that everything stays organized. Maybe Lauren can help keep me on track.
Look, it's all going to be fine. However it goes, it's all going to be fine, because I tell you, some of our best guests are family members who come on and just speak from your heart and tell us about what's been going on with your loved one.
And I'm having to call in, so I don't have a visual. Is there access to these articles that I can?
Yes, we will not be stingy about this article. We will send that out to you as soon as we can. As soon as we can. And so, yeah, you can have access to that. And so, before we launch into the subject matter, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Maybe this is partially the subject matter. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are right now.
All right. Well, my name is Jennifer Coleman. I live in rural West Tennessee in Henry County in a city called Paris, and we have the world's biggest fish fry here. And so I am a family nurse practitioner, and I started off before I had Tyler. I was an RN, and I was able to work full time. But then, since I've been a nurse practitioner, I haven't really been able to work full time because of his needs and the challenges that we've faced. So I was lucky enough to make some connections and be nominated to serve on the council about 6 years ago, and I wasn't sure how I would fit in, but it's been the most impactful 6 years of my entire life. And I can actually say that I'm thankful for disability in my family because of all these wonderful relationships that I've made, and I just don't even know where I would be without the people that I've met along the way. It takes a village, right?
That's right.
So just really thankful for all the work that the council's done. We've just worked on so many different initiatives, but there's always been a struggle connecting the dots, especially living in this rural area, of having effective services. So right away, we knew that Tyler was having challenges beyond just typical developmental delays. So about age 3, because of, communication and processing issues, he was having a lot of really bad behaviors, really negative behaviors. It would come out as property destruction and physical aggression, tantrums, elopement, and he was just so dysregulated. And it was for years just such a struggle to even really figure out what was going on. Mm-hmm. Could it be helped? I mean, even getting diagnoses was difficult from the area where we're at. Yeah. So, referrals take a long time to even get seen by professionals.
Yeah. Let me jump in for just a second, because first of all, I wanted to make sure that I made a Camden connection with you, because my wife is from Camden, and she is constantly running into people that are from the West Tennessee area around Camden. And so she would be, I would be remiss if I did not mention that my wife was from Camden, Tennessee, very near Paris, where you're from. And but also I wanted to check, I hope Babs told you that we always ask our guests to identify an interesting fact about themselves. So now, you're being here, and the topic that you're discussing is interesting enough, but do you have another interesting fact that people may not know about you that you want to share?
Oh, sure. So my maiden name is Sarkeesian, and I share that with Cher, the famous actress.
Yes, that was coming to my mind as you were saying that. I was trying to put 2 and 2 together, but yes. Okay.
Yes. Sarkeesian is my maiden name, and she's Armenian, and so am I. My father was full-blooded. His parents immigrated from Armenia.
Am I correct? The Kardashians are also Armenian.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. But is your family like the Kardashians?
No, not at all.
Okay,
No.
I kind of I was hoping that that was going to be the answer because it was going to be a really bad question if it had not been. Okay, so yeah, all right, I appreciate that. Then that is very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And so some Armenian roots there. And before we launch in too much further, I want to give Lauren a little bit of an opportunity to introduce herself as well.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, good. I'm on my phone so that the audio isn't blaring into the lobby here. I'm Lauren. As Dr. Davis said, I'm newly the executive director for the Council on Developmental Disabilities, but I've been with the council for about 6 years, the same amount of time as Jennifer. So Jennifer has taught me more about the service system specifically in rural areas than anything I knew about it before then. And I feel very close to Jennifer. I'm really excited to help share her story today.
And you worked with Team Care prior to that.
It's a very different lens talking to families than knowing how the service system should work. So it's been a great experience all together.
Yeah. How about your interesting fact?
Let's see. I thought about this morning, and I don't know how interesting this is, but I'll share that I grew up in Napa, California, although I don't know anything about wine. And I'm headed back there tomorrow to have a visit where my kids, who are very young, will have a chance to know the area for the first time. We haven't spent much time there since I've had my kids because of COVID. So I'm really looking forward to the next 5 days in Napa.
Okay. Well, yeah, that does sound like great fun. All right, with that, I'm going to let you guys take off and just tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, Jennifer, continue from where you left off, because I was going to say start with what was happening before you got connected to LifeConnect Health. So pick up where you were around age 3.
So, being here, we had bits and pieces of services all along. It wasn't until, and we were advocating for Katie Beckett because, right, I'm a nurse practitioner. We didn't have meet the income for him to have, services through Medicaid. So I was all along advocating for that and waiting for spots to open up through the new ECF Choices waiver. And when they opened up Group 7, I was one of the first to know about it because of being on the council. That was part of what we had talked about at a previous council meeting. So I was all over it because we were in crisis. Tyler was, these behaviors were just pretty much limiting him from even being able to access anything outside of our home, and then even in the home. It was just extremely challenging and very pressing on our family. We don't have, immediate family that could help us. Our social circle had gotten very small because of the behaviors. And so it was just a really challenging time. And so because, we were in crisis, we were able to qualify for Group 7 intensive behavioral support through ECF Choices. So right away, we were so thankful, and all of this, I just have to give glory to God for all this happening. I know that this was all his process, but we were awarded respite and in-home community-based services, and they were never able to staff it. So that's been nearly 3 years that he's had this, and they were never able to staff it because of us being in the rural area, the workforce shortage, COVID, a lot of things, combined. But so we ended up really struggling for services. There's not a lot of therapists in the area either. And so just trying to even find a behavioral therapist was very difficult. And so that's where my search was always, there's got to be something more. I'm not going to give up. There's got to be help for Tyler. We had him evaluated at the UT Center for Excellence, former bowling center. So we had a diagnosis. So we knew that on top of the intellectual disability, he had severe ADHD and speech and language delay that was causing these behaviors. And the recommendation was a combination of intense behavior therapy and medication. The problem with the medication was there's nobody here in my area that's knowledgeable to prescribe this medication. And so that was another struggle in itself.
So had you tried with some folks around your area to see if you could get some help there, and maybe just tell us a little bit about any of those experiences?
So should I? So there is a local organization, Carry Counseling. They have a few offices in West Tennessee, and so they had a nurse practitioner who could prescribe, and mostly this is mostly adults, but they do see some children. But she wasn't a specialist in the area at all. She was a family nurse practitioner, so had the same training essentially as I did. And then there was telehealth with a psychiatrist somewhere in Nashville who had a little bit more experience. But after I had been dealing with her, I didn't feel like she really knew either. So right about the time that we heard that she was leaving and there wasn't going to be anybody, because they had just experimented with different medications. So the first thing that they tried, was non-stimulant medications for the ADHD. Mm-hmm. Then they went ahead at 6 years old and tried the stimulant medications. And then there was some improvement, but not everything. There's still a lot of behaviors. They just didn't know about the combinations. And so right about the time, go ahead, you have a question.
And you're uniquely able to answer this question, I think, because you're using a nurse practitioner in this circumstance, or you used a psychiatrist at a later point. But in your nurse practitioner program, was there much instruction about dealing with these types of circumstances or people with intellectual and developmental disabilities? Were you well prepared, or is any nurse practitioner, without additional training, well prepared to do this work?
No, not at all. So the extent of what we learn is, we touch on some genetic disorders, and then like cerebral palsy and things like that. Just touch on it. There's no training at all on any of that. You go over the classes of drugs for psychiatric issues and that type of thing. There's nothing specific or intensive about that. And so when I was teaching nursing, I made it a point to incorporate just some things like people first language and how to properly assess someone with disabilities and some sensitivity issues like that. But they're not getting anything related to disability.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest deficits I see out there. Is deficits in being able to find somebody who's got the expertise needed to work with this population.
Yeah, and that's just not right, because like I said, it's a natural part of the human experience. Everyone is going to experience disability at some point in their life, and so we need to be doing a better job to prepare our healthcare providers and caretakers. But anyway, so definitely, I mean, I kind of had a little bit of a benefit of being in healthcare, but when you're just limited here. So fortunately, Lauren knew that I had been seeking out some better programs and she had shared an email with me about LifeConnect Health. And right away, I mean, we were so desperate because nothing had worked. We had tried the child interaction play therapy that they offered at Carey Counseling. We had tried the medications. There just wasn't the right combinations. Some of them had terrible side effects. And it was feeling hopeless at the time, but I always just kind of kept my head up and kept trying because I wasn't going to take no for an answer. And she sent me the link for a self-referral, really easy. I got on there. I finished the self-referral very shortly to LifeConnect Health, and they contacted me right away. No 1-year wait list. Not like, I mean, with Le Bonheur Developmental Pediatrics, it's a over 1-year wait list. And we've been on it, but I've never heard anything from them. So this is an intensive outpatient program. And so it's part of, like, the psychiatrist does the medication management. There's the skill system taught by the therapist. They use DBT therapy, which is dialectical behavior therapy.
Right.
So it focuses more on like the thought patterns behind the issues rather than like behavior reduction, what an ABA therapist would do, a BCBA.
Yeah.
And
Ms. Coleman, I was just going to point out that our audience is pretty familiar with dialectical behavior therapy because we talk about it a lot on
good.
And so it's really got some important aspects to it, I think, that are included within the skill system that are of critical importance. And you were working with Dr. Jana Dreisner through this,
Yeah.
correct?
Let me tell you about Dr. Dreisner.
Yeah.
She is absolutely amazing. So right away after we got the referral, they contacted me, and we spent a long time on a video conference discussing Tyler and what we had tried in the past and everything. And right away, you know, her wheels were spinning and light bulbs, and I could just tell she knew what he needed. And none of the providers here would ever pull the trigger on using an atypical antipsychotic on Tyler. He was young. I mean, we started the medicines at like age 6. We're talking about, you know, he just turned 9. And nobody here was comfortable doing that or even knew. But she right away identified. She asked lots of questions. She spent so much time. She explained how the brain works, how Tyler's brain works, how medications are metabolized. Like, she knew all that. So smart, talked to me like no one had ever explained anything before. So right away, she had credibility with me. I mean, I knew she knew what she was talking about. And just talking, you know, about how this new medication, or it's an old medication, but be new for Tyler, would like rebalance the dopamine and serotonin to improve his thinking and mood and behavior and the disorganized thoughts. And I was like, that's exactly what's going on. That's exactly what's going on. My child is not mean. He's not angry. He's not depressed. He's just, it's got to be the chemicals, the neurotransmitters are not working like they need to in his underdeveloped brain. And he's struggling, and we have to help him. So the medications started, let's see, the referral was the end of February. We started the medication the beginning of March, and right away, even before we had started working with Tyler on the skill system, I could see a huge difference. So then the skill system came.
Well, before you move to the schools, not to the school system, maybe to the school system too, but the skill system. Tell me, did she come up with a new diagnosis, or was this just kind of using the old diagnosis and improving the treatment, or how did was there any change there?
She agreed with the diagnosis. She didn't recommend any further testing. I had sent all of his records that I had, and she, discussing it with me and the way I was able to describe everything also, she just felt like, yes, this was right on. So there was it was just impulsivity and dysregulation with the severe attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, paired with frustrations from a speech and language delay, and intellectual disability, and his cognitive abilities. So she was always readily available at any time, and she'd tell me, so you can text me. I don't know if I should be telling this, for other people, but I mean, she has been the most responsive and communicative provider I've ever dealt with, and so smart and just so, I don't know, just so
Yeah.
good.
So it's good. It's good to have a really competent practitioner, but somebody who's also supportive in that manner. It really makes a big difference, doesn't it?
It's made all the difference. And then immediately, I would give her feedback, and immediately you could just see this huge change in Tyler. Then, and she went very, very slow with everything. Even before we started the antipsychotic, she wanted to see herself how he was doing on the current regimen that he was prescribed by the previous provider, and tweak times, tweak dosage. I mean, she wasn't just like, okay, I see you need this.
Yeah.
She really took her time, and she definitely took into consideration my feelings, because we had the previous, he had some dystonia with Abilify, and it's kind of a cousin in this class that, his eyes had rolled back in his head when he started taking it. And, that's super dangerous. It can be permanent.
Yeah.
So I was really scared about that. But
those were extrapyramidal symptoms.
yes, that
Okay.
he had with the aripiprazole, and
Okay.
that was prescribed, by the nurse practitioner who, really didn't know. But this medicine that he was prescribed by Dr. Dreisner is FDA approved for irritability associated with autism. So, I mean, it was more what he needed. And so that we developed a great relationship. I was very leery about if the telehealth aspect of for the behavior therapy, or the system DBT therapy for Tyler was going to work with him, because it's telehealth, it's teletherapy.
Yeah.
And you're going to ask him to sit in front of, a computer screen and be still and listen and interact. And it hadn't worked during the pandemic. Of course, they were, it was people that weren't used to using virtual. They were always in person. But what we found is the experience with LifeConnect Health is the providers are so experienced in this, and they know how to engage, and they know how to make it fun. And then,
so let me just ask, and by the way, I want to encourage our audience, if you have questions or comments, to put them in the chat box. So as you were doing this, so I might think that a 9-year-old would have difficulty engaging with someone across telehealth connection. Tell us a little bit about that. How were they able to engage him? I mean, you mentioned a couple things there, but was there any difficulty in getting Tyler to attend?
okay, so one, because of the medication, he's just so much better at all this. And the whole point for me of this type of therapy is I want him to be able to focus on skill acquisition, instead of so much of the beginnings of the therapy when we started behavior therapy was compliance and conformity, and you're going to, not do this and that kind of thing. But you can't always, as you're growing into be an adult, you can't always do that. I mean, you can hope for social acceptable behavior, but you still want to honor neurodiversity.
Right.
And so social reinforcement and growth in society is our main objective with Tyler. So I love that about this. The telehealth has been progressively improving each week. We meet for now a half an hour every week. It started off where he only interacted for 5 minutes. Then the next time was 10 minutes. And then the next time was 15 minutes. And I mean, he has just progressively improved. So the concepts in the emotional regulation skills system are applicable for any cognitive level, any disability. Like I have never felt so excited about reading about a program as I did with this when I first did the training online. It is so applicable to anybody. I just could picture right when I was doing the training first, before we even started with Tyler, that this could be, I mean, my husband can use this, and school kids can use this, and the kids starting in the at college can use this, and the inclusive higher education program participants need this. Everybody needs this because it's just so simple to use.
Everybody needs to learn to manage their emotions, right? So yes, absolutely.
And something that you said was that not everything's going to always go the right way. You said that when we started. Things are going to happen, and you have to know how to deal with them. So Dr. Julie Brown.
Let me just ask this about his functioning level. You mentioned his level. What's his communication like?
So Tyler has been verbal, but his speech has been historically very difficult to understand. And he, at the start of the school year, he was only speaking in like 3-word phrases. But now, and even this medicine has helped with this language. It's just part of all these connections that it's making in his brain, but his speech is so much better since he's been on this medicine that now he can pretty much interact with people outside the home. He occasionally has to slow down and repeat himself, but that's a huge difference because he would not have been understood by anybody besides myself or my husband or his immediate teachers prior to being on this medicine. Huge. So we're able to go out now. That's part of how his success of being able to be in the community is not only the behavior, but his ability to communicate his needs. And that has improved since he's been on this.
I want to give Lauren a chance to jump in. Lauren, is there anything you want to add at this point?
No, I'm just so blown away. Every time I hear Jennifer tell this story, I get new nuggets, but I don't have anything to add. You're doing a great job from a clinical side, Bruce, pulling things out that I wouldn't have even thought to ask.
Okay, great.
Oh,
and I do want to remind everybody, if you have questions or comments, please put them in the chat box.
Of course, I just thought of one, Bruce, after I said that. Jennifer, talk about how this impacted the services you need in other areas, like respite was a desperate need for a while. ABA was something you couldn't get. Talk about how just Tyler's able to go to church with you all, and you don't need those other services as much.
Right. So when I was reaching out to Krishana and Start, 10 Start and all that, I mean, we were back in crisis. I think it was just right after Christmas break and everything was kind of falling apart. His ABA therapist went on maternity leave and we were scrambling for a therapist and with the shortage and just like all these things. So and we had struggles with, he had started this CCFT therapy, and then they came back and said, no, he can't do ABA and CCFT at the same time. We're dropping him. And then all that was a big issue. And praise God that because of all this, we've actually this week been discharged from outpatient ABA therapy. He met all of his goals. And I mean, he is just, it's just amazing. This is a new kid, 100% new kid.
And this has all happened since February.
Yes, since March.
I just want to make sure I had the time frame correct. And one other thing I want to ask about, now you mentioned he was on aripiprazole before, and I think that's Abilify if I'm
Yes.
doing the dot to dot. And then I'm not sure I caught the medication he was switched to. So the atypical antipsychotic that you were using.
He's on Risperdal. That's what he's been using.
Okay, I was going to guess that, but I did not want to steal your thunder there. So that's Risperdal that he was placed on. And you, what dosage was required?
It's we started off with half of a milligram.
Okay. Okay.
And we have built up to now he's on a half a milligram 3 times a day.
Okay.
This is instant release. He's also on an extended release methylphenidate, Quilichew, and he takes guanfacine 1 milligram 3 times a day. So he was already on the guanfacine and the Quilichew, but at lower dosages than what Dr. Dreisner has put him on. And not on the Abilify was only for just a few days before he exhibited the adverse effects. So we stopped that, and that was when he was 6 years old. So it had been quite a long gap before he started anything else. In between there, they had tried some SSRIs a couple times, but there really wasn't any change, maybe just a little odd behavior.
So if I'm understanding correctly, she added Risperdal to treat the aggression as part of an autism spectrum disorder, and then prescribed or continued guanfacine and enhanced that dosage to treat the attention and impulsivity.
Correct.
Okay. Correct me if I say it wrong, though, because I want to make sure the right information gets out to all of our audience here. So,
yeah.
So I think it's important to understand these details about how this operated, though, so that, you know, as people are considering how to help others, that they can kind of, well, look at this situation as one where we've been successful. Okay, so proceed from there. I'm sorry to interrupt so much.
Well, I definitely don't want to skip out on the skill system. So
yes,
the book
yes.
by Julie
Let's switch to that.
Yeah, the book is called The Emotion Regulation Skill System for Cognitively Challenged Clients, a DBT-informed approach, and it's by Julie Brown. So this, y'all have to get this. And then the skill system, so, you know, y'all can become trainers. There's a 2-day training that she puts on, and they invited me to attend it, y'all, because I guess I was so bought in and excited about it, and because I'm a provider, even though I'm not, mental health qualified, but it's so good. So it's super easy. The skills, there's 9 skills. And they just empower the client to be able to self-regulate. So the first one, clear picture. The second one, on-track thinking. Third one, on-track action. Fourth is safety plan. 5, new me activities. 6, problem solving. 7, expressing myself. 8, getting it right, and 9, relationship care. They've been very thoughtfully laid out with symbols that match them. The first 5 are called all the time skills. They can be utilized at any emotion level, but the through 9 are calm only skills. So they can't be utilized when somebody is in a tantrum or in a, moment where they're just not able really, they have strong feelings. So that right there, is what we work on, and just utilizing those, and each one has different steps, but that is applicable to anybody. And there's all kinds of resources that go along with it. There's on the website, when you don't have to do the training to access the skills website, but yeah, it's huge.
I think I'm sharing my screen that has the emotion regulation skills system for cognitively challenged adults listed there. There's a whole website for the skills system and a resource center here. And I'm going to post the link in the chat box so that people can access this, because this book is really great. You mentioned the 2-day training. We have a number of people in Tennessee who've been through that 2-day training. And so there are some resources out there and available, as you found through LifeConnect. And so I do highly encourage, though, for more people to get trained in the skills system, because this is obviously something that we can really help people with.
It's huge. The next training is in October. I would encourage anybody to get a group together to attend it. I am so on board with this that I'm definitely going to be sharing this with everyone that I can talk to. There's other skills systems out there, emotional regulation. I found that this is, to be the most simplistic, easy to follow. I'm just all bought in. I love Julie Brown's work. She's so smart.
That's great. And you mentioned that there are the skills in there, and you listed several of them off, but there are anytime skills or all the time skills, and there are calm only skills. Can you tell us a little bit more about that distinction?
Yes. So, okay, when you are you've done the feelings rating scale, right? So 0 is no feeling, 1 is tiny feeling, 2 is small feeling, 3 is medium, 4 is strong, 5 is overwhelming. When you're at a 5, then you're hurting yourself or others or property. When you're at a 4, you're having fuzzy thinking, you're unable to talk, listen, or have a two-way street relationship. So when you're at those 2, then you're not able to do 6, problem solving, 7, expressing yourself, 8, getting it right, or 9, relationship care. You're only able to do the calm only skills, which are the first 5. So even when you're talking about fear on the feelings rating scale, it could be any one of these 0 through 5. I mean, you could be talking about, any kind of fear, but it could be any number of those, how intense the feeling is. And so they encourage you to separate those skills into when's the appropriate time to use them, because it's not going to be, if you're trying to do relationship care and you're at a level 4, then that's just not going to work. So it's helping people stop and identify where they're at. And we do that by, like, say, for instance, clear picture. So clear picture has steps. You're focusing 100% on the moment as it is. So the first step is notice my breath. Then the second step is notice my surroundings. Do a body check. What sensations do I feel right now? Label and rate your emotions. So there's your, how strong are your emotions? What are you feeling right now? Then you're going to notice your thoughts. What thoughts do I notice going in my mind right now? And notice my urges. What do I feel like doing right now in this moment? And with Tyler, I mean, y'all would just be amazed at how he is doing this clear picture. I mean, I just didn't think when we first started, I thought, okay, I'm going to learn all about this because I know I can use this, and eventually maybe I'll be able to teach it to him, but I know he's not going to get it right now. And I was a fool because he really does. He really does. We talk about how our breathing is. Well, I say, well, where are you right now? I'm in the kitchen or I'm in my room.
So he's bought in.
Yes. How do you feel right now? Well, I feel hungry. Well, is your hunger so much of an urge that, you can't listen right now? Is your tummy growling? I mean, it's just helping him be so much more self-aware. And I love it. I just love it.
And he's into it. Sounds like. I mean, he initiates. Does he do it independently, or does he require prompting to do that? Or
so he has been expressing his feelings unprompted. So he's very dramatic. He's a little actor, and so he'll say, "I'm mad." And we use a lot of the Daniel Tiger app. It's a free app on the phone. It's got songs that goes along with it. He loves that, and so then he might sing the Daniel Tiger song that goes along with that feeling. But then I'll say, well, how is your breathing? Is it a tiny feeling or is it a strong feeling? Mm-hmm. And so I'm just trying to teach him this skills thing. But has he been able to get the rating scale down? Or are you still working on that part of it? Or so what we do, we started off saying, like, give me a number or whatever. And that, to me, I knew that wasn't going to work with him. So then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to put it with a picture because he does pictures, cards. We do the PECs. And then I was like, I just don't know. So he is understanding it. But I'm doing both a word and a picture both. So I'll say, for 0 rate on the feelings rating scale, you're pretty much asleep. So it's what they say. So you don't have any feeling. And then 1 is a tiny feeling. So are you a little bit hungry, or are you so hungry that you're getting hangry and you're mad? And then I'll say, okay, well, that sounds like maybe that you're at a 4. So I'm trying to teach him that, but he's not able to really tell me the number right off.
Yeah. That's been my finding too, and working with a lot of different people with the skill system, is that it takes a while to get the number. And sometimes you have to kind of connect it to something else that the person does understand. I just as a quick example, one fellow that I worked with liked to drive my old tractor that tended to overheat quite a bit. And we used the temperature gauge on that to explain how this works. I mean, so, in order to operate the tractor, you've got to have some heat. It's going to generate some heat, but it's going to be within a range that you can deal with. But when it gets to be too much, it goes off the scale, and you're going to tear your tractor up. So, you just look for creative ways of getting these things across. Lauren has commented a little bit. Lauren, you want to come in and just tell a little bit of your sort of personal testimonial there with respect to these skills that we're talking about?
Yeah, I'll just say that I think so much of it comes down to how all of our brains work, even though there's a specialty needed to meet someone like Tyler where he is. But at all of this, I've had to learn, just raising neurotypical toddlers, I've had to learn a lot of this. And we use Daniel Tiger, and labeling feelings is huge for all humans.
It really is. And, people who aren't good at it experience more problems with these things. So, I think probably a lot of us feel like, well, we do okay with that, but we could probably do so much better in so many circumstances if we only had these skills and really practiced them on a regular basis. Wow, what a great story, Jennifer. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so, it's just my story, and there's a lot to it because I've lived it. So I'm going to work on honing it down and making it more organized if I could ever speak again on it.
You did
But
great. Don't even change a thing. I think you did great there. But you mentioned that training that's upcoming.
yeah,
Did you give the dates of that?
I know that it's in October, and I don't know the exact dates. She, I think, holds 2 a year, April and October. I
Okay.
attended the April training.
It's October 4th and 5th, Dr. Bruce.
Okay. Excellent. And is that how is that done? Do you travel to her location for that, or?
No, it's all done virtually. It's over 2 days. It's long, so it's full days, both days. But it's, I mean, I was just wishing that I was, a therapist when I was doing it, because, I wanted to really have had the experience of working with other individuals, and then seeing this way of thinking and having that background, and then seeing this, because it's like light bulb. Oh my goodness, this is just so good. I mean, for me, it was all very much brand new, and so I'm still a novice at it. But for me, it's working in my family. I'm really excited. I'm so thankful to have learned about LifeConnect Health, and the CEO is Celine Turco. She should get some props to, and I believe with Dr. Jana Dreisner are both partners in this business, and has just been a game changer.
Well, that's so great. And I love all those folks you were just talking about too. Dr. Dreisner's been a great partner, as has Celine. And I appreciate so much you coming on today. Lauren, I appreciate you as well. Always a great partner with the Council on Developmental Disabilities. I don't know if you knew this or not, Jennifer, but well, you probably did, since you're on the council, that the council paid for our START staff's full first year of training through the Center for START Services. So we're just so happy to be partners with the Council on Developmental Disabilities. Proud to be partners with you too, Jennifer, and Tyler as well. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. Thank you to all of our audience out there who joins every week at 12:30 Central Time for the Clinical Consultation Network. We look forward to seeing you again next week, where we'll have another fascinating presentation. See y'all next time.